Welcome to another episode of Flavor and Fiction. It's been a little while because, life, but I'm back on track and I have just finished another book in my 2023 reading challenge. And the category was a book published this year. And I chose Maame by Jessica George. This is her debut novel. And the special ingredient that I chose that was mentioned in the book is feta cheese. And the recipe that we'll be using this in is a feta spinach quiche. I'm not the biggest quiche person, but the recipe looked really good and it looked really easy. That was really the selling point. So we'll have that. I'll show you how I make it at the end of this video, and then we'll do a little taste test. But first, let's get started on talking about the book. The book centers around Maddie. She's a young woman. I feel like she was recently graduated from college. She's in her first job at a publishing company, trying to work her way up. But in addition to the stress of having this eclectic boss, maybe eclectic's not the right word. She's a bit erratic and emotional and unreasonable. So she has that to deal with at work, but she also has a lot going on at home. So she has a mother, a father, and an older brother, but she's the only one at home caring for her ailing father. There's a part-time care worker, but she's a full-time daughter. And she is the one making sure that he is fed and taken care of and, making sure that he gets everything that he needs. And the mother is back in Ghana. So normally she comes to London. If I didn't mention it, Maddie is a British Ghanaian woman. So her mother splits her time. She goes back to Ghana saying that she has to stay and help her siblings with the business over there, but she still calls back and asks Maddie to send money. She expects her to provide for her at the same time. So Maddie has a lot on her shoulders, and her older brother is an aspiring rapper, and he's part of an entourage of another rapper. So he's like traveling with this group. He's not really getting any success himself, but he thinks that by being around this other rapper, he'll eventually get his big break. So right now, all the financial burden is on Maddie. So as she's going through her life, she realizes, every day is looking the same. Nothing is getting better for her. She decides to start internet dating. And as any of you have internet dated know, a little of this, a little of that, it's not really going well. She's gaining experience. And that's what she wanted because she felt like she had zero romantic experience. But things aren't shaping up the way she pictured. And in addition to that, she started having panic attacks. And she feels like she couldn't tell anyone about them because who would understand? So one day she has a panic attack at work. And she's basically forced to see the on-site therapist there. Turns out the therapist is a woman from Ghana who understands the pressures of being the oldest / only daughter in the family. And by talking to this woman, she starts to release. And this is where the title of the book comes in, because she starts to examine the title Maame. Her name is Maddie, but they call her Maame because it means many things in her language, but for her specifically, it means woman. So since she was a little girl, they've been calling her woman, and they've been putting womanly expectations on her, and she's starting to crack under all this pressure. So she finally comes to the decision that she is moving out. If her mother can go live her life and her brother can go live her life, she should be able to live her life. And she's like, I'll come back. We have a part-time caretaker for the father, and I'll come back and take care of him, and but I'll have a life over here as well. Well, as soon as she signs for this new apartment, she has 2 new roommates. She's so excited. She feels more independent. She gets fired. There's a lot of drama surrounding that, but I'll leave that for you to read. She gets fired, and it's just like a spiral, because shortly after that, there's a family emergency, and her mother decides to return. So when her mother returns, it just brings back all of the stress that she's been able to distance. It just brings it more to the forefront. So she learns some things about her family, and she finally lets go of some truths about herself to her family. And all in all, this was an amazing book. I feel like it's very relatable, even if none of the circumstances in her life specifically match yours. It's relatable because she's a person trying to find her way, with her job, with her romantic life, with her family. And between those three, one or more, I mean, most people are struggling with. So I feel like this was a great debut novel from Jessica George. Some of the, I don't know how autobiographical it is, but Jessica George also is a British Ghanaian person who worked in publishing, and like there are just certain aspects that match up. So I don't know how much, it is categorized as a novel, so I don't know how much matches up, but I'm sure she put a little of herself in there. And excuse me, and I'm looking forward to more from Jessica George. So I'm keeping my eye on her, and you should too. Now, let's get to this recipe. First, you're going to poke a few holes in your frozen pie crust. Then you're going to crack 6 eggs and put in your salt and pepper. You're going to put your chopped onion at the bottom of your pie dish. You're going to top that with your chopped spinach, about a cup. Then you put on your cheddar cheese, followed by your crumbled feta. Then you slowly pour the egg over, try to get it over it evenly. And then you top that with a few pieces of butter. I may have put in a little more than the recipe called for, but that's all right. Then, this is how it looks when it comes out the oven. Beautiful. So now you've seen how I made it. So now we're going to do, I just took a little piece. We're going to do a little taste test. Pray for me. That's really good. I was a little nervous because, like I said, I'm not the biggest quiche person, but this is good. And this has cooled down some, but you can tell that hot, it's going to be even better. This is great. If I do say so myself. So it's not often that I get a great book and a great recipe. Sometimes things go a little awry with one or the other. So this was great. I'm going to put the recipe, a link to the recipe on Pinterest, and a link to the book in case you decide to purchase, which I highly recommend. And this concludes our segment of Flavor and Fiction. I hope you join me next time. Happy reading and happy eating.